Greetings my friends, this is Top Hat Runner here, and I've done a lot of research on inner barrels and performance upgrades and whatnot for AEGs, and one common thing I hear brought up on forums and whatnot is this idea of barrel suck. Now what barrel suck is it's the thought that if your barrel is too long, and let's say you're shooting a BB here, it's the idea that if your piston here finishes cycling while the BB is still in your barrel, and the BB's still in your barrel and the piston comes back again, it's the idea that this backwards motion while the BB's still in your barrel is gonna cause suction, to fill up the cylinder, and that this is gonna, suck on your BB and decrease your FPS if your barrel is too long. That doesn't actually happen. I'll demonstrate why that barrel suck does not exist. Mostly because of vented piston heads. See, in my Type 97 here, if I plug the air nozzle, there's no leakage whatsoever. However, if I put my piston all the way forward here and plug the air nozzle, still comes right back like nothing. The reason this happens is because of vented piston heads. If I can get my camera to focus, I'll demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about here. So when the piston is going forward in the cylinder, the friction between the O-ring here on the piston head, see if I can get this to stay focused. The friction between the O-ring on your piston head and your cylinder causes this O-ring to stay pressed back against the back of the piston head. And the air, while it's going in here, the air will also go in these little holes and press against the O-ring. So that'll create a good air seal between your O-ring and your cylinder. But while it's going backwards, the friction between the cylinder walls and your piston head's O-ring will cause the O-ring to go forward. And while the O-ring's forward, it allows the air to enter, it allows the air to go back behind the O-ring, under the O-ring, and into the cylinder through the vents. So the air kind of flows, around your piston head. And another reason that the barrel suck doesn't exist is because watch what happens to your tappet plate. I'll have to get my gears in the right spot here. Okay, so when your piston is released, when your gear releases your piston and it goes forward, your air nozzle is all the way forward and pressed up against your hop-up bucking. So now your piston's going to slide forward and all the air is, going to get blowing that BB down your barrel. However, when your sector gear here goes around, watch what's happening with the air nozzle. When it goes around and picks up your cylinder or your piston again, your air nozzle is no longer pressed up against your hop-up unit. It's actually a bit farther back and loading the next BB into the barrel. So the next BB's here. So even if there was any suction between your gun, if there was any suction on your air nozzle from your piston head going back, like you don't have a vented piston head like you're running a stock KWA gun or something, pretty sure they have solid piston heads, the suction, if anything happens, will be sucking on this BB here and not the one in your barrel. And your piston or your air nozzle doesn't return to the front of the gearbox until the very end of the cycle. And that is why barrel suck. That's why barrel suck doesn't exist. It's because by the time that would start happening, the next BB's already in the chamber. So if it's going to suck on anything, it's going to suck on the next BB and not the one in the barrel. And the air can just flow around your piston and into the cylinder. In fact, if I plug it here, if I just leave my finger a little bit in front of the air nozzle here, there's absolutely no suction whatsoever. I don't feel anything. When I move the piston forward, I can feel the air coming out of the air nozzle, but I don't, there's no suction at all. So thanks to vented piston heads, we do not have to worry about barrel suck. So don't think that that's a problem. However, if you do run too long of a barrel, you will decrease your FPS for an entirely different reason, and that's just because your cylinder runs out of air before your BB runs out of barrel, and the BB just kind of drags along the barrel for the rest of the trip out the barrel. There's a lot of complicated mathematics and whatnot to figure out how long a barrel is good for your cylinder, but I'll leave you to figure that out. Alright, I hope this helped you guys, and peace. Hope you learned something new.